All right, so before we joined in, JP, the Varun did ask a question about the glide blocks in X and Y. So I wanted to sort of quickly review that before we jump into today's lesson. So I'm going to create a quick short program, and then we'll talk about what the actual goals are for today. So first of all, I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see what I'm seeing. All right, so I'm going to quickly create a simple program, and I want to sort of showcase how the glide block works along with the go to block. So, very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out my background so that way we can see the X and Y coordinate system. Both blocks that we are using, the glide block and the go to X and Y block, they work off of the same sort of base principle. And the idea here is that we are going to be moving our character from some point where they're currently at to a new point somewhere else inside of our project. These points are determined by the X and Y coordinates. If we look closely down here, we have two numbers, X and Y. And you can sort of see they have a sort of like a symbol right next to it. And this represents essentially what this X value actually represents. X represents the sort of horizontal plane where our characters can move either left or right. So if the character moves right, as an example, the X value is going to increase from 0, which is the center point, up to 240, which is our maximum point on the edge on this side. By having our X value increase from wherever it's at, such as through using a block like change X by 10, every time it changes, we move further and further and further to the right because the X location is being changed in a positive direction, meaning that we're going further and further and further to the right from the origin point. Going left is seen as going the opposite direction. So if I wanted to go left, I had to change my X by a negative number. So if I click on this, it's going to move me left. Y works in much the same way, except what that will do is it will make us go up or down. When our Y value increases, our character is actually going to start going upwards, up towards the top of the screen. And if our Y goes negative, it's going to start dragging us downwards towards the bottom of our screen. So this one's the positive Y, is sending us upwards. You can see here our Y value right here. This is actually what's telling us where to be on the screen. Every time I add 10, this number increases by 10. These two numbers work together to sort of like pinpoint exactly where the character is going to be on the screen at any given point. And that's going to bring us on over to answering your question about what does the go to X and the glide blocks do. These two blocks essentially allow us to either teleport, in this case the go to is our teleport, to a specific location on screen. We can sort of specify where it's going to go using these numbers. So let's say I wanted to make my character appear down in this bottom left corner. So sort of where these two guys line up. Negative 200 and negative 100. When I activate this block, what's going to end up happening is, regardless of where my character is at on screen, when it activates, he'll teleport straight to that point. The glide block does very much like the same sort of action. So I'm going to have it go to the same location. Oh, the key difference here is instead of teleporting there, you will actually sort of slowly transition there over the amount of time given. So I'm gonna make this like 10 seconds. And I'm gonna move my character way over here. When I activate this block, my character will slowly start going to that new point over the time limit. It'll end at the 10-second mark. Go to is like instant transmission, if you've ever seen something like Dragon Ball. And this is like walking there. We can adjust the actual time limit here as well. A smaller number means it'll go faster. So if I bring it back to the similar location where it was before, and I run this, oops, I gotta double click this. It's gonna go there really, really fast. All right. With that being said, does that sort of clear things up? Okay, excellent. All right, so today's off to a great start. So while we're doing that, I actually also had one last request that I had from you is last time. If you guys wanted to share your more complete dialogue project, you could present it today at the beginning of the class. So is there anyone here that has like finished up or added additional things to the dialogue project that they want to showcase? Okay, so no from JP. How about you, Varun? Okay. All right. I just want to give you guys the opportunity to do so if you wanted to. So that's going to bring us into today's main activity. And we are going to be starting on the, I'm going to bring it right over here, the check it out activity. So very first thing I'll check in on is to see if you guys have done the activity yesterday. I assigned this one as homework. All right. So I'm going to check in on you guys. Give me a minute. All right. So here's what I'm seeing. Excellent job so far, you guys. JP, I think you might have just accidentally missed one at the end there. Yep. So just make sure that you do the sort of wrap up on the end there. Yeah, I can see that. So that's more like a timing thing. I know we shared it together in at the end of yesterday's activity. Just you have to sort of like time it out a little bit. So like count up to 10 and then you click the next button. Because that's how some of these pages work. Is it's going to be timed a little bit. But yeah, good job, everybody. Very happy. All right. Well, that's going to bring us right into today's main activity, the check it out activity. So first of all, I want to sort of get you guys' thoughts on the activity so far. Was it easy? Was it hard? And I want to sort of go through and clear up any questions you guys might have as well today. It was easy? All right, I can definitely make this harder for us. Varun, how did you feel about the activity? Easy? Okay. We're going to toughen this up. That way, we can do quite a bit more with it. So the very first thing here, um, first of all, I'd like you guys to choose a new project to remix. Just to start with. So I'm going to choose the starter project over here, number 3. And while you guys are getting that sort of set up, I want to talk to you about computer science. So as you can see, the main topic for this portion of the activity is what is computer science? They sort of go through and uh, I don't think they do a very good job of really explaining what computer science is. So I want to sort of give my own opinions on that. So first of all, computer science is a sort of broad category of sort of topics where we are essentially learning about coding, algorithms, and taking math and sciences and applying it to the sort of emerging technology that has arisen in the past like 100 years. The goal for computer science is to solve difficult problems, uh, and it's not just for solving problems; it's also for creating entertainment and for making our lives in general easier. It's essentially a tool. It's like not just a tool. Computer science in general is like a broad spectrum of different kinds of activities like algorithms, optimization, and research into computer systems and data sorting and data algorithms. So they also sort of go and showcase the actual sort of step by step that an engineer actually takes when they sort of take on that problem, like the problem solving steps. And I actually was doing something this morning and it's sort of very similar sort of breadth. And this is something that all computer scientists actually do when they try to take on new problems. So typically, what they do is they have a set of steps that they follow along to solve any sort of issues. And I'm going to pull up my problem that I had earlier today. So I had, oops, this wrong one. I'm going to pull Paint real fast. So the problem I was figuring out was how do I get a robot from a point A to point B? And this is like sort of the steps I followed along. So first of all, I had to recognize my problem. The problem for my robot is I had to sort of figure out how do I get my robot from the starting point here all the way to like this red dot over here. And the very first step that a computer scientist does, instead of coding, is they will typically look at the problem, draw it out like how I've done it, and they will then sort of use logic like how I was like listing out my steps here to go about solving the problem initially on paper. So in my solution, I have my robot go forward, back up, turn right, go forward, back up, turn left. And this is all based off of like the different colors of the environment that I'm seeing for my robot. Afterwards, this is like my sort of like step 2. I sort of went through and I wrote down the steps I think I needed in my code before I actually went through and added this into a real program. I then went through and transitioned that into real code. So this is the code I came up with right here. The code I came up with sort of follows along with my written instructions. So it's basically like the third step in any sort of computer scientist like solving a problem is they translate these logical steps. This is what we call pseudocode here on the side into real code. And from there, we move on to like the testing phase. At testing, we actually test our code, see if it works, and then we come back and make adjustments. And this is what they were showcasing in this part of the activity. And I wanted to showcase my own sort of personal process for an activity I did recently with robotics. This sort of process can be applied to different fields, not just coding. This can also apply to robotics, as I'm showcasing, along with other fields of technology. Algorithms sort of exist everywhere, and a real life example of an algorithm is like a recipe that you follow in a cookbook. All right, so this is what I want to share with you guys before we get started on to today's actual coding. So I'm assuming everyone by now has chosen a starter project, right? All right. So I'm going to ask over here. Everyone have a starter project? All right. So before we even get started on the coding for this, I want you guys to click the remix button if you haven't done so already. It's going a little slow for me, looks like. Yeah, I'm going to refresh real fast. Okay, I got signed out somehow. I was signed in as this for now. Hmm. Seems to me that the Scratch servers might be down. So, no matter. We could still do our coding, I believe. So we'll have to just remix this at a later point. So I want to first go through the yeah. So the Scratch servers might be down from what I'm seeing. We can make it work. So I want to sort of go through and first look at the code that comes with our starter project. I'm going to actually sort of bring this closer. One quick way to quickly organize your blocks, especially in a situation like this where we have code blocks that are given to us, sort of spread out really, really far like this, is to right click and use the cleanup blocks command. That way we can sort of see everything on one close location. I'm going to bring this over to the side so that way I have no space to bring my additional code in here. And the very first step that we always should do before we actually start messing with somebody else's code is to sort of read through and try to understand the different sections here. So for my main character, I have two code blocks, or two code sections, I should say. The first one being the broadcast for the sports car and an exclamation of "I like the city." The other one I'm looking at looks like it's going to be forcing my character to the front layer, then pushing it back 3 layers, and then it's forcing us to reset to this sort of starting position right here. Then we have this forever loop, and all it's going to do is it's going to change our character's movement to go slightly up and then slightly down. So by analyzing this, we can actually go in here and add a comment and sort of have it explain what's going on here. So I can say something like, this is a loop that has our character bobbing up and down like they are walking. And what I just pulled out right now is something called a comment. Comments are typically used in a lot of different languages to describe to other programmers, ourselves, and any sort of potential people that are looking at our code what our code actually does. So it's used for multiple purposes. So it can describe like different code sections, like how I'm using it right here to sort of break down what all this, control statements are doing. You know, essentially the main idea here is it's going to make my character look like they're going up and down. Comments can also be used in order to tell other people that are looking at your code like what a certain section of your code does, or it can be used as reminders for yourself about things that you might need to do still. The other character that we have is the object character. And in here, we can see that our code has different sort of starters. So we have a sports car. Whenever it starts as one, it's going to. Oh, look, see, there's more code down here. So it's always a good idea to clean up your blocks first whenever you get a new project like this. And reorganize this. Move this over here. Anybody left over? Yep, there we are. Okay. So then I'm going to go through here and explain this group of code as well for everyone. So the very first thing that we want to look for is this when flag is clicked, because this is typically going to be the very first actions that are going to occur in our code. So in here, we have something called a variable. So can anyone tell me what a variable is? Does anyone have like a sort of clue as to what this thing is that we found in our code over here? All right, so I'm not getting any responses, so I guess I'll just talk about it. Okay. Oh, Maroon. Okay, you got something. So something maybe that has different values. You're actually not too far off, Maroon. So the idea for a variable is it's something like a container that can hold on to essentially different kinds of data, different values, you might say. So these containers are essentially like our programs, like little storage receptacles to hold onto data that we might want to use later on into our code. So in here, the set is specifically used to first create that variable. So if we go to the variable section in our code, we should see a variable called costume just sitting right here. You can toggle this on, and when you do, you'll actually see what the container is holding on to. At the start here, when before I've even run my game for the first time, it's defaulting to the value school bus. And that's one of the possible values can be set to over here. What the idea is for for a variable is this container that we create can hold data that can be stored temporarily, taken out, and modified, and then it can be restored um, for later usage. In this program, from what I'm seeing, we're using this variable to essentially set up what current actual object is being shown on screen. So when we create the clone of that object, we know which costume to actually set our character to when it shows up. Oops. So with all that being said, let's get some examples flowing through here. So what are some example uses for a variable that we might see? Wanted to see if you guys can think of any sort of usage cases for variables. You can use real life examples as well. Oh yeah, let me write down the definition here for you guys as well. So that way we have a little bit more of a permanent definition. So variables are containers for data that we wish to store. These containers have the name that we give them, and by calling variable by name, we can get data from them, set data to them, or modify existing data. So, is there any sort of real life examples that you guys have? I've got a couple. If you guys are sort of stuck. So, any examples that you have for usage of variables, or variables that we might have seen or used? Yeah. So, real life memories are kind of variable. So, everything essentially everything that is stored in like the memory of our computer or in our heads, those are things like they are essentially being stored in variables. So you might have a memory about like a favorite birthday that you had. That's all sort of located in one sort of section in your head, and that we could potentially give that the label like favorite sixth birthday or something like that. You essentially give it a name, and when you think about it, you sort of recall that memory. So yeah, that is a good example of a real life variable. So I have a couple examples as well. So you guys have all played games, right? I think you guys all played Fortnite. So Fortnite tracks a lot of different things. So there's like the timer, like the match timer, and that's like something that keeps going up and up and up and up and up. That match timer is a variable. It's keeping track of how long your game has been going on for. We have a we also have variables for like your kill count is also a variable. It starts from 0, and every time you get a kill, it goes up by 1. We also have variables like the amount of ammo you have left. So ammo left in a gun. Yeah, so ammo left in his gun is one. How many people left in the game is another one. These are all different variables that are all sort of interacting with each other to, make your game. The actual positioning of your characters is also a variable. So positioning of your characters is also a variable. So just bringing it back to scratch, if we look here inside of our two different characters here, right here, all of these little things you see, the name is a variable. Right, like this part right here, that's a variable. The object name, X and Y are also variables because they can change and they're being saved and they're being read so that way the game knows where to show your characters at. Whether or not your character is hidden or shown is also a variable. Your size and the direction also variables. Like the whole you will be very surprised how many variables actually exist just all around us. Right now your computer is operating off of different sort of variables and states, you can have like a bunch of different games or applications running, and every single one of those applications is storing something into memory to know and recall later on. So, like, I'm going to pull up my picture over here. All of these little pixels here are individual variables that are being saved. There's a lot of little miniature variables all all sort of existing in this sort of location here. Programs could have like thousands and thousands of variables at any given point. And all a variable is, it's a location that is typically given a name that you can access data, store it, and retrieve it. With that all being said, I'm talking a little bit way too much. Let's actually get into coding and make this a hard project for you guys. So we looked at the object actual code here, and the idea here is when we click the actual game start flag, we're sort of resetting our variable to 0. We have a default costume cat, which is going to show up. It's going to go to the far left. So remember that sort of exercise that we did. We had like x negative way to like 200, like 90. This is almost 300. It's going to be way over here on the side. Y is going to be way down here. So it's going to be bottom left of your screen, and it's going to hide. After that, we have something called receives over here. So you guys have been using the broadcast and receive a little bit. So can you guys give me your like impressions of what this does? So what does broadcast and receive do? You guys have used it a little bit. So just give me impressions. What do you think it does? Yeah, in this situation, it's letting us know when to actually bring something out. It's That's a very specific scenario though. So let's try to take that idea that you have, JP, and sort of break it down into the actual different components of what's going on. Broadcast lets the code know when to bring something out. So it's letting something know. Broadcast essentially is like a person like shouting out an instruction to somebody else to do it. The best way to do this is I'm going to draw this out since I have handy dandy paint with me today. I'm going to make a new sort of drawing example. Let's say we have two people on a playground. You guys have probably seen these little things before where it's like a little telephone ear speaker that you speak into, goes into the ground, using like a pipe. And way off in the distance, way over there, you have your friend on the other side. So I'm going to draw the two people. This is not really to scale, you guys. I'm not a good artiste. Okay. So what this is going to be like is we have a person here shouting into the sort of earpiece. And that's like the broadcast. See, I got my drawing tablet here. Broadcast. So broadcast is like somebody shouting out a message into a sort of earpiece. And what receive does is it's like a person sitting on the other end waiting for that message. They have the ear up to like that sort of earphone, and this guy might be shouting out something like, like jump over here. That's just an instruction, and this guy over here is going to perform the action of jumping. So they're going to go up and then down when they hear that coming out. Oops. And the broader context of Scratch, broadcast is like an actual event, like an action to listen to. So broadcast is like a custom action that the game can react to. And receive is the receiver for that custom action. So it's like they work in tandem in order to actually create that actual, like, that actual situation here. So inside of our code, I'm going to bring this over. In here, we have the different messages that we're listening for. If I hear an artist, what's going to appear is a street artist, and this guy's going to make a clone of him to like sort of show up and move along the ground over there. And over here in our main character is where we're actually broadcasting that message to be heard. So in our initial code starter, we have a broadcast sports car. Our object over here is listening for that message, sports car. It's going to swap our costume to that, create the clone of it, and have it progress down the street. I hope that sort of makes sense for you guys. Let's get to the actual coding. So what we actually are intended to do with this activity for today, I'm actually way behind over here. Jump over here because I talked about a different stuff. We're going to want to showcase different objects showing up inside of our game. So as part of that, I'm going to make different things show up. I love exploring the city. Sports car's going to drive by. Let's see some other objects I have. I've got pigeons, school buses. The pigeon's probably going to be interesting to have show up. So I'm going to have them show up. And to do that, all we're doing is we're broadcasting the message tied to that. We're going to go to events, broadcast, pigeon. And when we broadcast that message, the object over here is listening for it. It'll set up a costume, create a clone, and send that clone on its way. So it should be able to start it. That's a huge pigeon. So I'm going to have my character react to that. The idea for this sort of story game is to have our character react to different things that they see. So what I'm going to have us do is, I know you guys have already done this once, so I think if I give you guys 5 minutes, I think you can make a very quick story with at least 3 things showing up. 5 minutes is probably way too much anyways, but we'll see. So I'm giving you guys 5 minutes. Create 3 objects that will show up using broadcast and have your character react to them. So that should be very, very easy. So I'm going to have that broadcast my pigeon. I'm going to use the say block and the thinks blocks as well. So I'm going to have them think, whoa, that's a huge pigeon. And that car. And then we have a couple other things show up as well. If you want to as well, you can also use weights to better intersperse the different things showing up so that they're all not showing up all at once. So I'm gonna have like a 3 second wait before the next thing shows up. Wait, broadcast the artist. Say. And again, one thing that you want to do is sort of constantly sort of test here. Oh, it doesn't have any art. Okay, so yeah, waiting 3 seconds. That was the right choice because that's gonna make things sort of tie up correctly here. Mhm. Have a think. I'll see you next. Wait a little bit longer. No, you did not. Sorry about that, Varun. So you can use any setting. So the different code starters have different like backgrounds, different characters, and they're also just sort of preset up. So that way, the only thing that you really need to change is the actual sort of appearance of your code. So like only this part is what's changing. We're not gonna do it. Okay. Yeah. So I wanted to do something a little bit more complicated. So this one's gonna be a little bit more in depth. I just wanted us to spend a couple minutes just getting that sort of basis in the way. So I'm gonna have my last thing show up now, and school bus. And I'm gonna have her say something like, "Pretty late for a school bus." Oh well, let's see it. So I'm gonna run it now, testing it. Um, it's a little late to pick a new story starter now. You can do the same what I'm doing. You don't have to change just because I'm doing this one. All right. With that being said, though, it is almost 1:45, so I want to see where you guys are at. Do you guys have the three objects sort of showing up in the character reacting? Okay. All right. So JP does it. Farun, I think you probably need more time, right? All right. What I'll do is I'll sort of take it slow, but we are running shorter on time. We have about 15 minutes before we would normally start wrapping up. So I want to, while you're working on that, I want to showcase some of the other things, specifically the add-ons. And I want to sort of showcase all three today, if I can. And that will definitely make things a little bit harder. So while you guys are, well, first let me ask you guys this: have you attempted the add-ons? The add-ons, just to sort of explain what we had. So we had three of them. We have the music add-on. We have the additional characters add-on, and we also had the end scene add-on. So I just want to see sort of see what have people done, so that way maybe I can show something a little bit different. Okay, so you did music and end scene. All right. I could definitely showcase how to add additional characters. It might have been looking a little bit confusing, especially because we have to add in all that extra code for the. Okay. All right. So you did end scene. So yeah, let's definitely do the additional characters then. And I think I'll do the music as well because right now it's very, very silent in my game. And we could definitely have some background music to uh, sort of liven things up a bit. So let me ask Jeffrey this. What do I need to do to add music? I want to see how you did it, Jeffrey. Oh, not Jeffrey, JP, sorry. We can just go on ahead if you don't want to. Uh, okay, so play sound, loop, and set a forever. Yeah, essentially, that's pretty much exactly all we need to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just throw this directly into our character here. You can technically throw any sort of background music anywhere. A typical good location is our backdrops, but for now, I want to make sure I sort of keep all my code, near each other. So I have my character stuff here. All we're going to do is when we want to start up like a background music loop, we're going to go and grab an event. One flag is clicked, or any other event that you want to use to trigger the start of your code. Forever is a very good sort of block to use, especially if you want to sort of repeat music indefinitely. This is very handy, especially when you have like a musical loop that's only like 30 seconds long, and your game is much longer than that. So we got that forever stacked in there. We are going to hop on over to the sounds tab to make sure that we actually sort of have different sound effects. So we have different sounds here already. Probably none of these work very good as background music. So what I want to showcase is the actual sound library. From the sounds tab, when you click on this, if you go down, scroll down, you can find additional sounds to use in your games. So this library has a wide variety of different things to use, uh, specifically special effects, animals, or it can actually have musical loops as well. The loop section is a very good location to look for if you're trying to find background music specifically. So let's take a look at these. If you click on any of these on this little play option or hover over it, you can get a fairly good opportunity to actually sort of see what it's all about. I think I like the elect piano, although it's very short. Okay, that's not going to be good. That's going to be way too short. So maybe I'll do this emotional one. Click on the one that we want. This one is a music loop that's only 7.5 seconds long. So it's a good thing that we're going to throw this into a loop. To play any sort of music in our game, we just have to go to the sound tab, aptly named, and use the play sound until done block. If I just did this one, it's going to repeat like the very first couple of milliseconds of the song over and over. It's going to sound very, very weird. These other sound blocks will also allow us to adjust the sound if it's too loud or too quiet. And the volume itself is also another variable that you can see right here. It's a sort of built-in variable, and this can be used to sort of gauge how loud your game is. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to stop that for now. Any questions so far on how to add music? All right, didn't expect any from JP over here. You got your music all set up since yesterday. Varun, do you have any questions? All right, let's quickly add. I want to do that other add-on, the ones that you guys haven't done. Either one of you guys have done. And that is the adding additional characters, and this will allow me to showcase some of the um, some of the different art tools that we have access to, and how to actually use code that is sort of pre-existing and basically modify it so that way it'll do what we want it to do. So the very first thing I want you guys to do is click on your object character. And from there, we are going to jump on over to the costumes tab. Inside the costumes tab, you can add individual additional images to your game. And this works in the much of the same way as the sprite library, where you can actually choose different characters. But when you choose a costume in here, all it's going to do is add an additional appearance for your existing sprite without creating a new one. You also have the ability to paint, grab one by surprise, or you can upload your own or get a snapshot. I think I'm going to do a camera shot, put my face in here. There we go. And there I am as a costume. So I'm going to use my photo as a costume for this. And I'm going to have to give it a name. So one thing you guys might have noticed is all these costumes have individual names, and that is how it's actually sort of figuring out what costume to swap to when it creates the new character. It's basing it off the costume name. Have you guys tried out the actual paint tools yet? In Scratch specifically? Okay, I might do a short tutorial on that too. We're getting pretty close to the time limit though. I think we have enough time. Let's do it. So I'm going to do a very, very quick tutorial on the tools. And I will be using my lovely face to actually modify that. So whenever we create a new image or we import one, it'll bring us to the actual sort of image editor software that's built into Scratch. In here, we have a variety of tools. Right now, I am in bitmap mode. So what that means is everything that I'm seeing right now is sort of set up so that way all I'm seeing are the actual raw pixels of the image. Most of you guys, when you create a new costume, you'll be in vector mode. And vector mode is essentially it's using formulas to create your actual image for your character. And the reason why vector mode is more common is because it actually allows you to sort of scale and descale everything without it getting blurry. So both tools have similar, or both modes have similar properties. I'm going to convert my guide to vector. I'm going to be in vector mode so that we can showcase more of them. In vector mode, you can use the erase tool in order to erase your backgrounds, and this will make it clear. You can change the size using the size option over here. So maybe I want to erase everything in my background, just leaving me. I can do that. No. Okay. It didn't like that. It's considering it not a vector, so I cannot change it using my erase tool. No. Big oof there. Okay, I'm gonna quickly use this erase tool instead. Let me erase my background. There we go. Typically, the tools do not work properly with each other if you do something in bitmap mode and convert back, as we just saw there. So I'm gonna just do this a quick sort of cleanup. I'm gonna just leave my head. Using the different tools, it's just like Microsoft Paint, in that we have like a typical brush tool, we have the line tool, and we have the circle tool. Okay, just leaving my head there. Oh, the edges are still there. We'll go a little bit longer, you guys. It's not fair if I'm just stuck here, not being able to showcase the code. Okay, I got my head. Yeah, if you want to. So I got my head here, and once I'm done, I can just sort of click off, go back to my code, and it's going to be there as one of the additional costumes. What we'll do is from here, all we have to do to add the actual character into the sort of rotation is essentially right click on any of these sort of clone blocks that we have, or these receive blocks, right click on it, duplicate, and drop it anywhere in your code. What you want to modify here is the actual name of the variable, or the actual content of the variable that we're storing. So in here, I'm storing the costume name I just made. So this is why it was important to relabel this. So my costume name is Zach. So I set that there. And the other last thing I have to do is when I click on this down arrow, I have all these sort of preset messages that we've made already. I need to make a new message, and this is going to represent me. So I'm going to have a Zach message as well thrown into the mix. And that's the sort of easy way of just creating new messages for your game. The when I receive blocks, when you click on this down arrow, it also works for the broadcast blocks too. When you click on this down arrow, you can either create a new message, or you can create or use one of the ones that are already existing. So let me ask this. Let's ask it as this: have you guys got your custom image in, and do you have the code to support it that I just wrote? I don't know, because we have to add one last thing to our character on the side to make it show up. So this will be like the sort of reaction that our object will have. Okay. JP, you're gonna have to sort of wrap up what you're doing with the art if you're on that still. I know we're running short on time, but just sort of wrap up your image there. And we're gonna need these guys right here. The quick way to do it, right click on any of our receive blocks that we have up here. Right click and duplicate. And from there, you can click on this down arrow, new message to make the new message. And all you have to do here is set the object set the costume to the name of your costume over here. So this has to match up. Okay. All right. I'm gonna leave this here for a minute. All we have to do to make this show up now is do just what we've been doing already with our main character. Is over here, we just have to send out a new broadcast. I'm gonna actually throw in a wait in here too. Wait like 10 seconds. Well, let's wait 5. Like, and have them react to that. And the one key thing that we actually need to make that show up is our broadcast. Broadcast Zach, my new message. Oh, disembodied head. Creepy. And then that'll be it. So I'm gonna bring my code back over to the object. To call our object is the same sort of process that we've already done so far with the other objects. So the key thing here is just making sure that this code is set up correctly. So I'm leaving that up. Then I'm going to showcase. Meanwhile, while I'm showcasing, I want to sort of gauge who wants to actually showcase their project. We got to wrap up, and I want us to be done by 2:10 or so. So who wants to share? Okay. I know both of you guys have already done the end scene, and all that really is essentially sending out a message. You actually don't even need to send out a message because all you have to do is essentially change the appearance of your background using a looks block. Looks, swap our backdrop to whichever one we want. If I have different backdrops here, I can have it show this guy up, and then I'll have my character disappear. So looks, back to my character, hide, and that could be like an end scene. All right, so I'm gonna do it sort of in order that I see it. JP, I'm gonna give you the option to go first. Again, at this point, you guys can sort of freely unmute yourselves if you want to. And I'm going to turn it over to JP first. You guys remember how to present, right? It's the bottom right hand corner of this little Google Meet corner. All right. And all you have to do is click on present now and then select your screen. All right, you got Steve. I see that. I'm going to try and zoom that in a little bit more. You got a really big screen, I think. Yeah, how about you zoom that in a little bit? Thank you. Let's redo that one. Okay. A shark? Yeah, that is mysterious. Alright, I like it. Good job, JP. Alright, Varun, you wanna go next? Alright, let's see your project. Yep, good job, JP. Yeah, clowns are evil. Alright, it looks like you quickly Googled that one up. Yeah, good job. Alright. So, it is almost 2:10. I got one thing to talk about, and that is your homework for for today. Um, just like last week, or not last week, just like yesterday, I'm gonna have you guys check out the next activity beforehand, and then we could talk a little bit more about the actual concepts that are in there. So, in less of a mouthful, I want you guys to check out activity number 3. So, I want you guys check out activity number 3, the setting activity. And again, I liked both of you guys' stories. I liked how you guys have actually gone through today's sort of activity and made sort of unique stories. So, JP, your story with being on the moon, that was pretty entertaining. And I like the sort of creativity going on with your story that you told, Maroon, with creepy clowns, Fortnite skins, and everything going on there. So I want to sort of see you guys keep going at it. Um, Next activity is the setting activity. It's going to be a little bit of a longer one. It's got 10 steps to it. But before we leave, any other questions, comments, concerns? Is things too easy, too hard? How do you guys feel? All right. So, regarding all the stuff I talked about today, was that easy or hard? Or somewhere in the middle? Easy and hard? All right. Yeah, we like to try and mix that up. So, if we have like a little bit easy, a little bit hard, that sort of brings us down to the middle. Yeah. All right. So that's all I wanted to know. That way I can sort of prepare things that are harder for you guys if you guys are finding it too easy, or make it even harder if it's not hard enough. All right. With that being said, 210. I think it's probably about time for you guys' lunch. You guys haven't eaten yet. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.